All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Market Futures. We are live and we're early. We're 2 minutes early. I think I've been early almost, 3 out of 5 days last week. So it's starting to become a trend showing up early, but we are here. We're live. Very excited to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It is Sunday, July 13th. We are almost midway into July, and bro needed to talk. Yes, exactly. That's why I'm joining early every day to talk. But we also, dude, some of the market closes last week were like almost 3.5 hours. So we've been definitely doing a ton of yapping. But it's because there's a ton to yap about. And we're only going to have more to yap about going into this week because, folks, this week is the week that earnings begins once again. I mean, we had a little bit of a preview of earnings last week with Levi's and Delta. Tomorrow, we really have nothing, but Tuesday, we got JP Morgan, BlackRock, Citi, Wells Fargo. Wednesday, we have J&J, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, United, Discover. And then Thursday, we start off tech earnings with Netflix, GE, Pepsi, a bunch of other names. And then Friday, we have Schwab, American Express, 3M. So we got a lot of companies to look into as we get into earnings season for Q2. Q2 is over. We are about this. Well, tomorrow will be the third week starting of Q3. And if we can have a strong Q2 along with a decent macro environment, we also get CPI on Tuesday, which is going to be very important. There are some street reports I've been reading that says CPI is going to be hotter than expected. And if it is, I think it creates a dip opportunity. But the question is going to be, is it going to be as hot as we think, or is it going to be normal? Because if it's normal, then I don't think it's going to be the worst in the world. But we got a lot of macro data. We have a lot of earnings. And as B. Martin says, I love how we get our playoffs every 3 months. We are so blessed to get our playoffs 3 months or every 3 months, so 4 times a year. And it literally is the playoffs, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 every quarter. And it goes on for basically a month and a half, almost 2 months. And so there's constantly something to look at and discuss and keep going from there. Dennis says, Amid, I came to New York City. I'm walking in Central Park right now. My girlfriend just rolled her eyes as soon as you said hello, everybody, and mentioned the cowbell. But I don't care. See you in Miami in August, my guy. Dennis, appreciate you, man. I'm happy you're enjoying Central Park in New York. It's hot as hell in New York. It's hot as hell in New Jersey, so I can imagine it's hot as hell in New York as well. The Central Park is beautiful. Central Park is beautiful. I mean, it's just, I think it's one of the most, I think it's like top 10 most beautiful places in the world. So happy you're getting to enjoy Central Park, and I will see you in Miami. Thank you for the super chat, Dennis. Happy you're enjoying New York City. Thank you so much. I'll be in New York a lot more once I move out to Jersey City, which is going to be relatively close. But I used to go to Central Park with my friends after school back in high school because I was only like a 15-minute train ride away. So I went to high school in Newark, New Jersey, which is relatively close to Penn Station. Penn Station is kind of where you get to New York. So yeah, Central Park is a nice spot in my heart. We got earnings. We got earnings coming up, folks. We had a lot of news happen over the weekend as well that we'll get into after we get through the overnight markets as they open up. So we got about 14 minutes until the overnight markets open, and then we'll get into all the big pieces of news that we had over the weekend because we did have a bunch of things happen over the weekend. Quite frankly, we had a bunch of things happen over the past couple hours. Specifically in regards to Tesla that we'll be speaking about. Tesla is actually up 2% for the week ever since the whole America Party drama happened. Went to 288, now back at 312. Pound here, 141. Robinhood did get to 101, was not able to hold it right now at 97.63. S&P, great week as well. SoFi above 21, not too bad. Grab got the $5 close on Friday. Google got to 180. We do have a big story around Google and OpenAI that we'll be talking about as well. AMD led the day on Friday at 146. NVIDIA, we got to 4 trillion last week. Almost got the 165 close. I mean, it's been an incredible week. And now if we can have Q2 continue to maintain that momentum, not to mention freaking Bitcoin this morning, we saw 119. Right now we're at 118,981. Are we about to get there again? We haven't seen 119 since the morning, and it stayed there for about an hour. It's $9 away. Bitcoin has been an incredible story the past week as well. We saw that surge from 114 to 118 on Friday or on Thursday. If you were on the market close, you saw that live. There you go, 119. There she goes, 119. And now from 118 to 119, it's been incredible. Absolutely freaking incredible right here. And part of the reason Bitcoin might be running is because, I mean, some people are worried about the big, beautiful bill. Some people are worried about CPI maybe being harder than expected. And although inflation going up would be bad for risk on assets because we wouldn't get rate cuts, and rate cuts are good for risk on assets like a Bitcoin. If inflation's going up, your thesis on why you should be buying something that is not going to get debased by your own government also goes up, right? In terms of that overall value, the thesis makes more sense. And so that might be another reason people are buying Bitcoin. Now, crypto week is going to be next week as well. There's going to be a ton of events and conferences around crypto, so it could be some front running. We do know that about $415 million of shorts were liquidated on Thursday, which is probably the reason Bitcoin ran up as much as it did. But there also probably was a catalyst before that liquidation that got the shorts to realize they're screwed. And this week might be the culmination of those catalysts coming together as we get into crypto week. Futures themselves are down, and I think there's some reason for why futures are down. You can see on the thumbnail, we do have futures down about 0.5%, pretty much unchanged since then. I think a variety of things that Mr. Trump said over the weekend, including some things he didn't say, which we'll get into, is what's causing a little bit of some of the volatility. But also, I mean, I don't know, down 0.5% is not really volatile yet. Trump mentioned some stuff about the EU tariffs in Mexico. We'll talk about that. I don't know if the street believes it. I don't even know if Trump believes it, but whatever he said is enough to get the street to be a little, not as risk on going into futures. And then tomorrow we're going to kind of see how it ultimately plays out. This is the headline we have going for the week. So the EU-Mexico tariffs that Trump announced yesterday night, we'll talk more about that and we'll keep going from there. Tuesday, CPI. Wednesday, PPI, Thursday, retail sales data. This is a big one. It's not bigger than CPI, but it's a big one because retail sales, if that slows down, then that can give you an understanding of what earnings might look like for the Lowe's, the Home Depots, et cetera, of the Walmarts. The thing is, Levi's crushed earnings. They beat EPS by 70%. So and they said tariffs are not going to have any impact on their demand. So we at least have one example. And Delta had their highest Q2 revenues ever in history. And they increased guidance as well. So Delta and Levi's, two very consumer-oriented companies in terms of the products and services that they sell, had a great earnings. So if retail sales on June are good for Thursday, then that's going to be really good. You get consumer sentiment on Friday, and then you get some Fed speakers throughout the entire week. So these are going to be the most important things that we look at, and we're going to see how it plays out. Yes, Netflix and ASML, those are the big earnings in the tech sector that we also have this week. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a very, very exciting week to go deeper into and see what we've got going on. XRP is having a little bit of fun right now, along with Bitcoin 283. I did buy $100 worth of it. Someone gave a $100 super chat on Friday. So I do own some XRP. Not a ton of it, but I do own some of it. Rob, thanks for the $10 super chat. Do you think selling Palantir covered calls expiring August 15th with a strike of 175 is safe? Yes, I personally think it's safe. Could Palantir get to 175 by August 15th? It is possible if they have an absolutely monster earnings. I believe their earnings will probably be the first week of August. Even if they do have that, incredible earnings, to go from 140 to 175, I think is a bit aggressive. So I don't think it's that crazy to sell that call. Let me check how much premium they're giving you on that. And if it does get challenged, again, I think you'll be able to manage it, because when you're so far out of the money and then the stock rises to get in the money, it usually means that, all right, the stock's going to consolidate there, and that's when you can roll the covered call and navigate it. Now, if you sold a 145 call and you picked up a lot of premium and then the stock gets to 160, then you have an issue, right? But you're so far out of the money that I think it's not the hardest situation to be able to manage. 175, wow. 175 is paying you $2.77. I mean, that's just incredible premium on Palantir. So the call buyers are willing to pay almost $300 to buy those calls for August 15th. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst in the world, but ultimately you'll have to navigate it if we do get to those levels. And if we do, it's a good problem to have. I don't think it's the worst problem. All right, so we got about 8 minutes until the overnight market's open, and then we'll get into all of the headlines. First of all, again, thank you everybody for being here. We're getting into the third week of Q3. I did nothing this weekend other than, honestly, I went to a couple of I just came back from a family event, and I went to a family event yesterday. So it's kind of just been running around all weekend with family. But outside of that, one thing I did do, and let's just address this real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, quite frankly, I have nothing to say, and I don't even know how to navigate this. But we did get a tweet by our president. Oh, are we at 119.3? Are we moving on Bitcoin? Are we moving? That might be good for a Robinhood Coinbase MicroStrategy open. Yeah, look at that. 119.2 right here. Not too bad. Okay, this is the tweet we got from Trump over the weekend. In my opinion, this is my opinion. You can agree or disagree. I thought it was disgusting, and I am ashamed that he is our president and putting out stuff like this. But, I mean, what can I do? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but essentially what you're looking at on the screen is him telling the American public to stop worrying about Epstein and move on. That is how you can boil it down. And what I did over the weekend, what I did last night, and I really encourage everyone to do this. I mean, if you haven't, I'm not the one to give out recommendations. I deeply, deeply encourage everyone, if you have a Netflix account, to watch the Epstein documentary. It's from 2020. I watched it 4 years ago. I watched all 4 episodes again yesterday just to remember what exactly is going on. I mean, that Netflix, that documentary was one of the most fantastic documentaries with primary sources they used to actually explain. They're not even trying. Netflix doesn't have any agenda. They were really just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and say, what is going on? And because he killed himself, quote unquote, killed himself in 2019, the documentary aired in 2020. And so that's the extent of the information they have. But it's been 5 years since then. And in the past 5 years, not much has changed other than an administration that, quite frankly, ran on the idea that they would release the files, and they didn't do it. And so I think it's not going to have the biggest impact on the market, but just as an American citizen and as a human being, seeing our president gaslight the entire world and say that we should move on from this. If you watch that documentary again, for those that watched it years ago, I would watch it again because it re-jogged my memory on how serious and you would have to be an idiot to think there's no client list. You would have to legitimately have an IQ of 1 to think there is no client list, or to not think that very powerful people were involved in this. And when you watch that documentary again, I think it's just going to make you more enraged about the fact that the list is not coming out. Yeah, I think Elon was right, bro. I mean, look, I don't know if he's actually on the list, but I don't understand how someone could be this dismissive of the evidence after they ran on the evidence coming out, right? That was one of the key parts of their campaign. To a lot of Americans, if you're not directly implicated in the list, or you have very important people that you want to protect. Either way, it's disgusting. And so it's sad, dude. It's very, 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 very sad. And I don't know what's going to be done about it. I don't know if there's going to be any level of pressure on the administration to keep focusing on this story and releasing it. I think there would need to be a whistleblower at this point. I think there would need to be a whistleblower. And given what they did to Epstein, because I did not believe for 1 second. When you watch that documentary again, you realize this guy was a narcissist. The last thing he would do is kill himself. He got away with everything in his life since he was a young child. He figured out a way to finesse his way into different organizations, different leaders. I mean, I forgot, after watching the documentary, I forgot he legitimately ran a Ponzi scheme with one of the hedge funds, Tower Financial Corporation, back in the 80s. He was part of a Ponzi scheme. The guy who was the CEO of the Ponzi scheme went to jail for 16 years. Jeffrey Epstein got off because the hedge fund manager didn't rat on him because of whatever reason. I would imagine he was afraid of Epstein's connections. And Epstein went off scot-free, even though he was literally involved in a $460 million Ponzi scheme. I mean, I really do suggest people take 4 hours out of their life and watch that Netflix documentary, because it really substantiates just the anger that I think a lot of people have, and that they should have. Bitcoin right here, 119, around this Epstein situation. So, I mean, that kind of really just, when I saw this tweet come out on Saturday around 5 p.m., I could not believe that he's going to die on this hill. And the only thing it can make, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be okay, obviously he's hiding something, or he's protecting people, or he's implicitly implicated inside of the operation. And he's probably going to get away with it, as he's Trump, given that everyone who's in power, FBI director, deputy FBI director, attorney general, have all fallen in line, and they are going with Trump's agenda of not releasing the list. So it is what it is. Maybe we'll learn more about how it plays out in the future, but it is very sad. And I really, really would suggest, just, if you have any empathy for this situation, to watch that Netflix documentary, because it will materialize why, no matter what political standpoint you're on, you should be upset. And not just upset at Trump. You should be upset at Biden, and be upset at everyone who has not released this list. So that was one thing that happened on Saturday as well. All right, so we got 2 minutes until the market opens, at least for the overnight markets. The things that I'm watching for, again, we got a lot of headlines to run through, but Bitcoin, obviously, that's going to be a big one. We'll see what happens with Bitcoin. I mean, it's trading basically at all-time highs. We'll see how some of the Bitcoin proxies trade. Tesla, Palantir, and NVIDIA. We got some new updated stats on retail from Vanda Research. In the first 6 months of 2025, Palantir, Tesla, and NVIDIA were the 3 most traded stocks in the entire market. So we're going to be talking about some of those updated retail stats and keep going from there. S&P 500 probably going to open down about 0.5%. We got about a minute left until these overnight markets open, and then we will get into all of the headlines that we've got going on. Dennis, thank you again for the $20 super chat. It's our anniversary, and she wants me to say thank you for your guidance, bro. Happy anniversary to Dennis and his wife. Hope she's listening to this, and thank you for letting him listen to the stream without getting too annoyed at him. Appreciate you, Dennis. Appreciate your wife being here. And yeah, congrats, man. Anniversary in New York. I think it's one of the most romantic cities to celebrate an anniversary. So appreciate you being here, and congrats on the anniversary. Yes, currently right now. It is currently right now, Mr. Dennis's anniversary. All right, here we go, folks. We got 5 seconds. The overnight markets are now open. Let's see how they open up. S&P 500 down almost 1%. Down almost 1% as we get into the open. Hoodie 98, that one's up a little bit from 97 where it closed off. Tesla 312.70, that's almost flat. Palantir 141, that is also basically flat. SoFi 2136, that's flat. Google, that's also flat. AMD down just a little bit. Grab is at $5, that's flat. Reddit's also flat. We got a lot of flat opens. Futures are red. NVIDIA also down 10-15 cents. I mean, that's not that crazy. Tessie 313, that would be up just a little bit from 312. Meta 715, that's flat. Salesforce is flat. Rocket Lab is 39.10. That's up a little bit. Rocket Lab did hit 40 on Friday, which was very nice to see. Nubank right here, 12.91. That is also flat. NVIDIA again, nothing crazy there. Boeing, how is that one doing? Boeing is up a little bit. Boeing right here up about 2%. We might have some news on Boeing. We'll check on that in a second. But that one also not moving like crazy. Amit, are you going to get into Nubank? No, I've traded Nubank before, but I mean, I don't know. There's a Brazil risk, right? We just tariffed Brazil by 50%. So I don't think any Brazilian companies right here, unless you just believe Trump's not going to go along with it, which he probably won't by August 1st, I would kind of steer clear of them right now. I would want to get more clarity on the Brazilian tariffs. AMD right here, 145.71, Palantir 141, Robinhood again, flat. Yeah, that's a very flat open, guys. We're really not seeing anything crazy. MicroStrategy probably up 1% or 2%. Yeah, it's up 1.14%. We're really not seeing anything crazy right here. You got to remember as well, and I have to remind myself about this throughout the rest of the next 6 weeks, we're not going to have crazy volume. A lot of fund managers and money managers, they're going on vacation. And already in July, if you looked at some of the volumes for the first couple of weeks, outside of the names that have run like crazy, volumes have been flat on the S&P and the Qs. And the S&P and the Qs have been relatively flat. I mean, they're up a little bit, but nothing too crazy. So summer is when you tend to get volumes to die off. Now, obviously, the volatility of earnings will bring back some volume, but can't expect it to be too crazy. Robinhood right here, 98. Nothing too crazy there. The drone companies, they got a big tailwind last week with Mr. Pete Hegseth instructing the DoD to buy a bunch of them. They are all, honestly, most of them don't trade overnight. One of them does, AeroVironment. That's up a little bit. Everything else, yeah, doesn't trade overnight. So basically flat from last week. SoFi's up a little bit. Some of the quantum names, they're up a little bit right here. IONQ's up a little bit. Rigetti's up a little bit. Everything else is flat. The only thing that's really moving is Bitcoin. Bitcoin right here, just below 119 again. Just below 119. Tesla does go green. There she goes, 314. We do have some news updates on Tesla that we'll talk about as well. Where is HIMS? HIMS is up a little bit, 48.30. HIMS is up a little bit. SBED, do they trade overnight, the Ethereum treasuries? No, I don't think they do. No, they don't. Bitcoin back to 119. Yeah, they don't. Does BMNR? I don't think it does. BM&R doesn't even have options yet. Yeah, that doesn't trade overnight either. BM&R, nasty week. I mean, it was pretty disgusting. We talked a lot about it last week and a lot about these Ethereum treasuries, but SBET had a good week. BM&R just did not have the best week. Marathon, Robinhood trying to get 99. Marathon is up 2%. That's green. Clean Spark is up 1%. All the Bitcoin proxies are getting some love. Hut 8 mining's up a little bit. Riot should be up a little bit. That's up 1.2%. Whereas Coinbase, yes, I'm still holding Webull. Coinbase 1.13. I sold $14 covered call, or sorry, $14.50 covered calls for this Friday on Webull. And I think I picked up like 15 cents of premium. So I did sell $14.50 calls for this Friday on Webull. Does Big Bear AI trade overnight? It does not. Big Bear, does it? Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, it's down. Okay, so it's down. 632, that's down about 2% overnight. Big Bear, I think it got to like 850 yesterday or on Wednesday, and now that's down. Oscar, does that trade overnight? Oscar is up a little bit. Oscar took a nasty beating as well. You had a lot of FinTwit favorites. Oscar, Big Bear, Lemonade, all of them took some beatings last week. And we'll see this week if they can recover at all. MP again, major stake by the Pentagon. That's why that stock was up about 50%. SoFi right here, 2134, basically flat. And then Googs just under 180. That is also flat. PayPal's almost under 70. So one of the other reasons the fintechs took a beating is because JP Morgan came out saying on Friday, like at 3:30 p.m., that they're going to start charging fintechs for their customer data. I don't even think this implicates PayPal, Robinhood, or SoFi like at all. Like maybe in a very minute way, but all the fintechs fell like at once when that news came out. PayPal got hit the worst out of it, and I guess there's something deeper to the story. PayPal's now down almost 7% since that article came out on Friday. So it might be a buying opportunity, or it might be something where the street's kind of getting it wrong right here. But Robinhood and SoFi, street didn't care too much about it. S&P 500 right here down about 0.36%. Tesla 316. All right, Tesla, she's moving the most out of the big tech names. Nvidia's down, Google's down. Where's Apple? Apple is flat. That's down. AppLovin is down. Circle is down. SMCI is down. But they're all not down like a lot. They're down like 0.23, 0.4%. BM&R doesn't trade overnight. GameStop with Bitcoin, you're right. It should run. GameStop should get some fun. They own, like 10,000 Bitcoin? Dude, if GameStop doesn't run and their strategy has been becoming a Bitcoin proxy and Bitcoin's at all-time highs, it's just an embarrassment to GameStop, like at every level. And it is very sad, but it just sucks for shareholders that have stuck through it and, Bitcoin getting to all-time highs. Well, and granted, GameStop started buying Bitcoin at like 100,000. So do they really deserve that much alpha on Bitcoin going to 119? Probably not. Wow, Hoodie, 99.25. All right, Hoodie getting some love. And Bitcoin right here back to 119. Back to 119. Pelosi's only portfolio change was Broadcom. She exercised her Broadcom options. That's the only thing that she did. I didn't see anything else different. She still has her Google calls. She still has a ton of NVIDIA. She has less Tesla than she had before because she sold a couple months ago. But the only thing she did was exercise Broadcom, which has been hitting all-time highs. I mean, Broadcom right there, 272. If NVIDIA is going to crush earnings, Broadcom's probably going to crush. And I think it's getting pretty evident that NVIDIA is going to crush earnings as well. VIX futures are slightly up a little bit. Are they? Yeah, they're up 1%. VIX futures, 1938. They're up 1.23. It's a relatively flat overnight market. I mean, it's not too crazy. Nebius right here, up 0.74. BM&R again doesn't trade. Does CoreWeave trade overnight? CoreWeave is down another 1% in the overnights. And then SBET, which does trade overnight, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so it doesn't trade overnight, but on Legend it trades. So there's some stocks that don't trade overnight, like a Grab. Like you can't buy Grab overnight, but if you're on Legend, they allow you to buy. It's kind of weird on Robinhood. So the move we're seeing on SBET could be some traders just like buying it right here. That's why it's at 22.89. But if you go on your Robinhood mobile app, you're not going to see SharpLink at this price. It's kind of just how Legend works on Robinhood. Let me make sure. If I go on my phone, because Robinhood has this thing with some stocks. SBET is 2142 on my phone, but on Legend it's up. So it's a very thinly traded volume. but it is volume nonetheless. All right, cool. So let's get into the headlines. We'll see if there's any dramatic moves as we navigate the overnight markets. But outside of that, guys, it's a pretty chill overnight market. Nothing too crazy right here. We got a lot of other headlines that we'll look at and get into. And we'll see if we get any major market reaction going into it. It's on the advanced charts page. Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. Yeah, if you look at it just normally, it's not going to show you, but it makes sense on mobile. If you go advanced charts, you'll see it. Okay, cool. So let's get into what we've got going on. Salesforce right here, 257. That's down a little bit as well. Meta down another 0.5%. And then NVIDIA, 164.75. Palantir, 141.20. Robin at 99.25. S&P, 621. And then Palantir, 141.45. All right, so I think let's start off with some stats. Let's start off with some stats. So here are some stats on retail participation. Let's do an update on 6 months into the year. What was the first half consisting of when it came to retail? And then we'll get into Tesla and a bunch of things Elon said. So first of all, retail investors have bought $155.3 billion of single stocks and ETFs. Pretty incredible, but retail has been dominating this market. And this is $3 billion more than the height of the 2021 markets. In 2021, 6 months into the year, retail had bought $152.8 billion. So far, we bought $155.3 billion. Obviously, 2025 is, in my opinion, much different from 2021 from an earnings perspective and a macro perspective, but retail is in the market. Daily inflows are $1.3 billion from retail. That's up 21.6% year over year. And NVIDIA, Tesla, Palantir were the most traded stocks during this time, which has probably led to a lot of their momentum and the option markets becoming very juicy for those names. The average retail portfolio gained plus 6.2% over this period. I know a lot of retail investors that are in the chat, including myself, are up a bit more than 6.2%, but nonetheless, their average retail investor is beating the S&P 500, which is very, very nice to see. So what does this mean and what's kind of the takeaway? I think number one, retail investors are crushing it due to the advanced sophistication of due diligence and due to the crowdsourcing of that due diligence online. I mean, a lot of names have made their moves just based on retail understanding those theses better than the big banks. So that's the first takeaway. Number two is I think retail investors to an extent might be a little tired because they've deployed so much capital already. So I think the question for the next 6 months of the year are going to be, hey, you know, do you buy NVIDIA at 4 trillion after you bought it at 2.7 trillion? Like, do you really have the dry powder essentially to continue buying, or do you sell and take some profits before you then decide to deploy money if you wait for a dip, if we ever even get that like dramatic dip? So I think one thing that could be a little bit of a weak spot for the market is that if we get some level of bad macro data and some bad earnings and retail says, all right, you know, let's say NVIDIA drops from 160 to 145. I bought in at 90. I'm going to take some profits just because I'm afraid of how the story is going to play out. You might have some people just say, all right, I'm not going to deploy. I'm going to take some profits. I'm going to wait till NVIDIA gets to 120 or 130 and then redeploy. Now, I find that to be highly unlikely, but then again, it's the summer. Anything can happen in the summer. We've seen plenty of historical trends of August and September not being the best for the broader markets. And so I'm very curious now, and I think we'll get more of this data going into the end of July on how retail participated in July. Volumes across the board are down, but stock market is doing pretty well with a lot of retail names getting momentum, one of the biggest being NVIDIA. Amazon overtook NVIDIA last week as being one of the most bought stocks. So I think the takeaway here is we're going to see how much juice retail has to pump into this market. And one of the other things I think is really important is if NVIDIA doesn't have a big bid coming from retail, will it have that big bid coming from the toots? Will they finally jump in? I mean, I'm sure a lot of them have already jumped in, but will they jump into an even more aggressive stance? We know that there's 7.1 trillion on the sidelines. You got a lot of fund managers that are not really actively deploying. Maybe it's going to be time. I think a lot of them might wait for a dip, but if they don't wait for a dip, then some of that money might be coming in. And yeah, I mean, if no one's selling NVIDIA, like I'm not selling NVIDIA. I think a lot of people in the chat are not selling NVIDIA. You know, there's going to be more pressure on with the diamond hands, just making sure that these names don't get hit as bad as some of the fund managers might want them to get an entry. And if there is some manipulation there, I still think there's going to be a good chunk of retail that just believe in the story. And we are the buy the dip generation. And if we're going to continue to be the buy the dip generation, then that should create a bid for a lot of these names. Now, speaking of sophisticated retail, if you want to call this sophisticated or not, I'll let you guys be the judge of this. Someone on Wall Street Bets took their mom's retirement account and put it from 1.4 million to 5.4 million in 18 months. Pretty incredible. Here are some stats on how they did this. The portfolio went down to 800K in April, so they lost like 600,000. Their major options win was HIMS, but he sold it at 24. If he had held it all the way to like, I mean, forget like the 70s, but even right now it's at like almost 50. You know, the options wins would have been even juicier. He mainly scalped NVIDIA and Google on the trades, and now he sold 85% of that 5.4 million. It's in cash, and he has puts on the QQQ and calls on UNH. Some people might see this and say this is incredibly reckless, which I understand. Other people might see this and say this is pretty damn epic, and I also understand. I mean, at the end of the day, he did say in the post that his mom gave him the freedom to do this, and I'm sure she's a pretty happy mom right now. But like, look, this is what bull markets are made of, right? Like when you really have conviction at the bottoms, which is what he went all in on during April, and then you emerge, it can be some life-changing amounts of money. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen every time. You've got to be really, you got to have some luck on your side. You've also got to be really smart at knowing what stocks do these options on, what strike prices, all that stuff. So it's chasing, but it's chasing momentum in a way that if momentum's on your side, it can keep going very well. If momentum's not on your side, it could have crashed and burned. So obviously, yes, knowing your risk tolerance is like kind of the core element towards figuring this out. But the reason I'm showing this right here is because it's like, again, this is the nature of the market that we're in. Some people might think, okay, this is bearish 2021 toppy. I think, well, I can understand that perspective, but I can also get how some retail investors are just like, what fund manager would have been able to make 1.4 million to 5.4 million in 18 months? None of them would have recommended HIMS. But I'm sure this guy who got a majority of his cash off HIMS probably was on Twitter or YouTube watching videos about HIMS, reading articles about HIMS that came from retail to get a broader understanding of how to navigate the markets. So it's just a testament to obviously risk tolerance, but also the sophistication by retail, even if they are being pretty aggressive with some retirement accounts. Here is NVIDIA's market cap, which is now 4.07 trillion. It is 3.6% of global, not American, global GDP. This comes as NVIDIA is officially the first company to hit 4 trillion in market cap. By comparison, the entire UK and France markets account for 3.2% and 3.1% of world GDP, which means NVIDIA has a higher percentage of GDP than the UK and France. The German stock market represents just 2.8% of the global economy, which is about 3 trillion. NVIDIA is at 4 trillion. I mean, it's pretty damn incredible. It's pretty damn incredible. And again, it does feel like NVIDIA is going to maintain this momentum. I mean, I think it's very hard to imagine what would be, again, the catalyst that gets people to get upset about NVIDIA. We know that one of the big stories on Thursday is that Jensen is meeting Trump in the White House, or he met Trump in the White House, and hopefully that meeting will result in some level of China revenue coming back. We still don't really know if we have a China deal or not. It's like we kind of think we have a China deal, but there hasn't been any real confirmation. Basent said last week we would get a ton of deals this week. We did get 0 deals this week, but we did get Trump sending out a ton of letters. So we had that happen. But, you know, besides that, there's not much more that that we saw. And the question is just going to be, you know, how does that play out going into August 1st, which is going to be the deadline for tariffs? And, you know, how much of an impact does that have as well on some of the mega caps, which theoretically should be insulated against those tariffs, but you just never know. You never know how those are ultimately going to play out. Speaking of tariffs, let's do some updates on tariffs. So these were the tariff updates that we had last week. Trump sent letters to leaders of these countries with tariff rates that he said will start on August 1st. The big ones right here are 25% on Japan, 25% on South Korea, 30% on the EU, 30% on Mexico, and 35% on Canada. Now, those last three, the EU and Canada and Mexico, sound new because they are new, because on Saturday is when Trump introduced those. Saturday is when Trump introduced those. Is SoFi running? Where is SoFi? SoFi 2163. All right, SoFi 2%. 2% on SoFi. I can't check resistance for 22 because that only happens like when the market's open. So there's no real volume to check that in. But dude, it looks like she wants higher. It looks like she wants a lot higher on SoFi. And if Noto gives us a pretty monster earnings, then hopefully the street's going to be able to give it to her. So we'll keep an eye right there on SoFi. SoFi right there, 2170. See if we can get 22 in the overnight markets. So the EU tariffs and the Mexico tariffs and Canada tariffs, those are the newest ones that he introduced on literally yesterday, on Saturday. So I think one of the reasons that futures are down right here is because, well, we just introduced 30% on 3 of our biggest trading partners. Now, the European Union came out with a statement and said they are extending the reciprocal tariffs on the United States to like the end of August to be able to continue negotiations. So I think the European Union is like Trump's just saying whatever Trump wants to say, because at the end of the day, we're going to negotiate and we're not going to even impose our digital taxes or tariffs on the United States until the end of the summer because we want more time, which means hopefully we'll get a deal. But I think that's what the stock market is reacting to. Now, all the other tariffs, which is what we covered breaking live every single day from Tuesday to Friday, are these countries. And I mean, I kind of think they're going to be imposed if they don't come to the table, but I think it's going to be a short time that they stay. Trump probably doesn't want to be seen like a taco here, but I think he might have to taco to an extent, because again, if Jay Powell thinks that we're going to have massive tariff inflation, maybe it doesn't happen. But if Jay Powell thinks it's going to happen because of 30% tariffs on Libya and Iraq, for the worst case scenario being 35 and 30% on Mexico and Canada, that would not be a good thing for rate cuts. And in fact, the real sad part about this is on Monday, there was a 95% chance for a rate cut in September. We know we're not getting it in July. That percentage has gone down to below 60. It's not good. It's not good. I mean, one way to derail a Santa Claus rally is 0 rate cuts, which again, I think Jay Powell is under so much pressure. Oh, we didn't even talk about the news that broke on Friday. I mean, I mentioned it on the market close, but the director of the Federal Housing Administration came out and said, quote, "I am encouraged by reports that Jerome Powell is considering resigning. I think this will be the right direction for America and the economy will boom." We have no confirmed reports that I've seen over the weekend that Jay Powell has said to anybody that he's considering resigning. So I kind of think the dude made it up and he's trying to put this artificial pressure on Jay Powell, which is kind of ridiculous, but I don't think Jay Powell's leaving. In fact, I think this is going to make Jay Powell more likely to stay, because Jay Powell's a dog, bro. Jay Powell's a freaking dog. I don't think he likes to be told what to do. So, SoFi right here, 2169. I am just hoping August 1st comes and Trump either delays the tariffs again or he announces a ton of deals, even if they're stupid deals where we don't even really get anything meaningful from it. He announces it just so he looks good and the market can calm down. But I think that in the next 3 weeks, as long as earnings are good, that is the one thing I'm worried about could derail this market. And, you know, it's not like a reason to sell, in my opinion, but it is something to keep your eye on. And we're going to have to take a look at that going into August 1st. And the worst thing that could happen is CPI is really hot, which some people from the reports I've read are expecting CPI to be not as cold on Tuesday. And if that's hot, and then Jay Powell has to acknowledge that on August 1st, you have basically Liberation Day 2.0 actually being implemented, not being delayed, I don't think we're going to get that rate cut in September, dude. I think he's going to play hardball. And if he does give it to us, he's going to begrudgingly give it to us, and we're not going to get that second one, which the market is pricing it. So the next 4 weeks are going to be incredibly crucial for this administration, not only from a macro data perspective, but also from an actual deal-making perspective. Are we going to get these deals done? Are we actually going to get these deals done? SoFi right here, 2170, NVIDIA 164, hoodie chilling above 99, Palantir 142, and then Tesla 315 currently right now. Yeah, remember when Jay Powell said to close the effing door? I've never heard him curse like that, but he said it. It's like, you could tell. He was just like, he's a dog, bro. I don't think he wants to get kicked out of his job. He still wants his legacy, which, to be honest, I mean, he's been able to carry us through a massive bull market while getting inflation down. And if he can kind of keep this going towards May 2026, I think he's going to have a pretty good legacy. But I don't think he wants that legacy to end with getting kicked out of office because Trump, kept yelling at him. So we're ultimately going to have to see how that plays out. BM&R does not trade after hours. So BM&R, we're not going to be able to see how that one trades. All right, Tessie. Let's talk about Tessie. We have a bunch of things to talk about on Tesla. First, the reporting that XAI was raising at a $200 billion valuation was false. Elon said we're not looking to raise money, which he was kind of right. They weren't looking to raise money from outside investors that are not named SpaceX. Officially, SpaceX is investing $2 billion into Elon Musk's XAI. We don't know the valuation, but Elon wasn't necessarily being accurate by saying XAI is not looking for more money, because they are, because one of his other companies is investing. It's just they're not looking for money from random banks. They're doing a deal with SpaceX. So SpaceX will be investing $2 billion into Elon Musk's XAI, which is very exciting. We don't know the full terms of the deal. We don't know how much money they're investing. We don't know if it's going to be a $200 billion valuation. Remember, XAI is Elon's AI company. It's his competitor to OpenAI, Google, Gemini, etc. And what he just said 10 minutes before I went live is that it is not up to me in regards to if Tesla could invest in XAI. If it was up to me, Tesla would have invested in XAI long ago. We will have a shareholder vote on the matter. So Elon, I think, has a lot of freedom to get SpaceX to invest into XAI because he doesn't have public shareholders. And by the way, he probably does need more money, right? Because if they're going to release Grok 4 to its full capacity, which Grok 4 over the weekend I've been using it is pretty damn good, they're going to need a lot more compute. A lot of that $2 billion is going to be going into more inference training and eventually probably more Blackwell chips. They already have a supercluster of about 200,000. It makes a lot more sense that SpaceX gets the ability to invest in them and they have synergies with SpaceX versus in the past Tesla having to go through a shareholder vote to get there. Now, here's my conspiracy theory, which I don't even think is that conspiratorial, to be honest, about why Tesla was not able to invest. XAI raised at an $18 billion valuation back in June of 2024. Derek, one of our friends of the channel, he actually got to put in $1 million back then as well. So Derek, that's how I know they were like legit raising, because he got to make that investment. And so they were taking a ton of money from outside investors. Elon had not gotten his compensation package. So one of the reasons I think that Elon either purposely didn't want the board to give a shareholder vote to Tesla investors to invest in XAI, or he just wanted to stay away from it, is because, Elon needed leverage. And in order to have leverage, the leverage comes from saying, if you guys don't pay me, I'm out. I'm leaving. Right. So I think from one perspective, Elon probably wanted Tesla investors to get exposure to it, but also he's probably like, well, if now Tesla's invested in my other AI company that has a ton of potential, and these guys don't pay me, and I get kicked out of Tesla in some crazy way, the board gets rid of me, whatever, then everyone will still have access to XAI via a proxy by Tesla because they got to invest in it, but I'll be left not being the CEO of Tesla. So I do think there's a world in which, Elon kind of manufactured Tesla not being able to invest in space, invest in XAI. Obviously, Tesla shareholders think it's a no-brainer. To me, it's a no-brainer because Grok is probably coming to XAI. I mean, Grok is probably coming. Grok, which is the XAI product, is coming to Tesla, and we already know it's coming to Tesla based on what Elon said over the weekend. But he needed leverage back then, and now it would make more sense for Tesla to ultimately get exposure. You guys are saying SpaceX deal was fake. Elon said so. I didn't see that yesterday. I would love to see the tweet. If anyone can send me the tweet, let me know. If he denied it, that's actually very interesting then. That was reported by a lot of people that SpaceX is investing in XAI. Yeah, send me the tweet if you have it, because I did not see that tweet. I feel like I should have seen that tweet because I have Elon's notifications on and I would have seen it. But if not, wrong, he didn't deny it. Okay, so you guys are telling me. Okay, so if you have the tweet where Elon denied it, because I feel like I would have seen that tweet, send it to me. This is the one that I thought he didn't deny at all. But if he did deny it, that means they have enough money. If he didn't, that means he probably needs more money to buy more compute from XAI. In Bitcoin right here, 119.4. All right, so Bitcoin trying to get back to all-time highs at 119.5. Maybe we see 120. If not, then we get to enjoy Bitcoin trying to get close to it. NVIDIA, wow, trying to get back to 165. Everything's going green, folks. Robin and 99 pounds here just had a spike up. Weeble's up. Misty. Oh, Misty's going to have some fun with these covered call premiums that are going to get pretty juicy. Misty right here, 22.23. And you got MicroStrategy that it's up as well. He did not confirm that he confirmed or not confirmed. I mean, look, I see every one of Elon's tweets, so I think I would have seen if he said that SpaceX is not investing in XAI. Also, sources very close to the XAI fundraising were the people that were cited for SpaceX getting in. So I don't know. If someone has the tweet, send it to me. But I don't see that's the case. Now, here's the thing. If Grok does become a standard on Teslas, it makes all the sense in the world for Tesla shareholders to have a piece of XAI, even if Elon didn't want them to get a piece back when he was trying to gain leverage in 2024, when he was ultimately building out what he needed to build out for his compensation package. And we know that Grok's coming to Tesla because Tesla tweeted a video. This is the Tesla main account. This is not a fan. This is not a subscriber. This is the Tesla main account that tweeted this video that you're about to see of Grok being implemented into a Tesla.
What would you do on your first date with Optimus? I'd take that shiny bastard to a dive bar, get it drunk on motor oil, and see if it can dance without short-circuiting the jukebox. I'd probably end up riding its hydraulic arm like a mechanical bull while it whispers sweet nothings in binary. Then, if it's lucky, I'd let it plug into my circuits for a little dirty interfacing under the neon lights.
What would you do?
The Tesla main account with like 5 million followers is the one that tweeted that. So, I mean, like, when you talk about taking risks on social media, Tesla does not care. So, I don't know all the extent of what Grok's going to be able to do in your Tesla, but it makes no sense that Tesla investors don't have a piece of XAI if Grok is going to be, which is the main core offering of XAI, right? Grok is the moneymaker for them. If that's going to be in 7 million vehicles and eventually, tens of millions of vehicles, and people are going to be talking to it, and it's going to be using a ton of compute to be able to give you responses, like, yeah, Tesla investors should own a piece of that, especially if the same CEO, Elon, is the guy who's running it. So Bitcoin right there, 119.2, getting some momentum. Tesla right here at 316. I think it's bullish for Tesla. I'm going to be buying probably 100 shares of Tesla going into earnings. I don't know what price I'll get it at. I want to wait probably a day before earnings. We'll see. Maybe I do it earlier. Kind of convinced myself at this point that I have enough hood Palantir in NVIDIA and I want to really start establishing a major position in Tesla. I think 280 to 330-ish is the range. Could it go above that? Sure, but I think it'll be pure hype if it goes above that. And if it goes below 280, I think it's going to be too much FUD. Not that it doesn't deserve to be below 280, but that, there's going to be a little bit too much negativity, and the contrarian signal would be to buy. So 280 to 330 is my range. I will be selling calls against it actively because I don't think the stock is going to go to 500. I don't think it's going to get away from me. And so I'll be just collecting premiums, and that's kind of my next main position to start developing on Tessie. But ultimately, look, the earnings are probably not going to be that good. We know that. They're going to have negative earnings growth. I just think that investors are trusting that Grok's going to be big, Optimus is going to be big, FSD is going to be big, Robotax are going to be big. They're going to take time to play out, but investors are willing to give him the premium while he is taking market share, even if the earnings are not going to reflect some of that market share. So that's what we got on Tessie. Where is MicroStrategy? That's at 440. There you go. MicroStrategy right there, up 1.37%. Also, the thing about Tesla is the premiums are amazing, dude. Like the call premiums are like just unbelievably juicy. And if I think Tesla's going to be range bound, if it's not, then it's a good problem to have, right? I'll deal with it. But if it's going to be range bound, those call premiums, you can really get, above 4 to 5% a month, even in a conservative way, just because there's so much activity. I mean, Tesla and NVIDIA are the number 1 and 2 traded stocks. NVIDIA's number 1, Tesla's number 2 in options every single day. It's almost 3 to 4 million contracts traded daily for those two stocks. So that's why the premiums there are also very aggressive. S&P 500 right here, 621, AMD 145, SoFi 2168, Google 179, and then Robinhood just below 99, 98, 97. Steve will not be joining today. He is at a family event, so Steve will not be live. He was on Friday, so if anyone missed that, we talked for about an hour and a half on Friday, and we got Steve's thoughts about the market. Steve is not a fan of Tesla right now. He thinks Elon should be replaced as the CEO. So Steve is definitely pretty bearish Tesla at these levels. He has some covered calls at 260, 270 that he's not going to be rolling going into September. And he's ready to have those get called away. Wow, NVIDIA breaking through 165. Dude, we're kind of getting everything going green. Even Palantir, 142, going green. Very nice to see some of this momentum. Yes, Tesla investors do not own a piece in XAI or SpaceX. And, that is the annoying part about being a Tesla investor. But again, Elon was asked multiple times over the weekend why that's the case. And his response was, it's not up to me. If it was up to me, Tesla would have invested in XAI long ago. I don't know if that's true, dude. I don't know if that's true. Tesla's $40 billion in cash. They could have thrown in $500 million a year ago. I think Elon wanted leverage. During the compensation discussions, which still isn't fully confirmed yet because of the Delaware judge, one of the big narratives was that Elon would leave Tesla and go build XAI to be his next multi-trillion-dollar company, and Tesla would go to shit because without Elon, what is Tesla? And that was part of the reason he made sure to convince shareholders, hey, like, I know you're probably going to vote for this $55 billion pay package that I deserve, but if you don't, I have another option. And, he ended up getting, I think, 75% of the vote, which helped him. Yeah, at that point, to me, it was just a backup plan. But it does beg the question, why didn't Tesla investors get to invest in like 2 of the 3 different funding rounds before this one at $200 billion, which is the rumored valuation? And that part I don't understand because Elon already got the compensation at that point. So it is a little weird. And maybe the board of directors didn't want the scrutiny of investing in XAI. I mean, they really are not doing that much with their 40 billion in cash. They're definitely not buying back the stock. They're using it for growth, but 40 billion in cash is 40 billion in cash. If you invest in XAI at 100 billion and it goes to 200 billion, that's a nice little double on your cash. So the question is just, will they get the shareholder votes? Also, I believe that the November meeting for Tesla shareholders will be happening. So I believe the documents were put out over the weekend that November officially will be the shareholder meeting, which I think it tends to happen in the summer, but this time it's happening in November, if I'm not wrong. Let me pull that up in a second. But yeah, that is what we're going to get in November. And that's probably when November 6th. Yeah, November 6th. That's when we're going to see the vote probably for if they should be able to invest in XAI. Yeah, November 6th. That's the exact date, November 6th. Kathy also has been buying some Tesla. So Kathy right here on Friday bought 45,000 shares of Tesla. She sold 168,000 of Archer. She bought another 13,000 in ArcW, and she sold some Coinbase and some Roku and some Archer. She also sold Kratos, which was a drone company that got some love based on what Pete Heck said on Friday. But she has been buying some more Tesla. So there you go. Amit, can you please explain how Bitcoin rising directly impacts the price action of HOOD in real time? Is it just trading algos that keep up certain equity tickets in lockstep with crypto? So yes, certain names are pegged to Bitcoin, like a Bitcoin miner, like a Coinbase, like a MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy and the miners are uniquely pegged towards Bitcoin's price action more than just crypto price action. But Robinhood, the reason the street loves Bitcoin for Robinhood is because when people trade Bitcoin, they tend to trade it on one of two platforms, at least for retail. I mean, there's a lot of platforms, but two of the platforms that do have a decent chunk of volumes are Robinhood and Coinbase. And so they collect fees when people trade. Like when I bought XRP, I had to pay like $1 to Robinhood to buy the XRP. And that dollar is revenue. Now, if you have tens and tens of millions of people trading at the same time, that's a lot of juicy revenue. It's a very high margin business. Now, what we've been seeing from the data, if you've been keeping up with Robinhood's monthly metrics, is that the crypto volumes are not as good as they were back in 2024. I mean, it's actually really bad compared to what it was in 2024, even though it's still pretty good. It's just not as good. So I think retail might not really be causing the massive momentum we're seeing on Bitcoin. I think it's a little bit more institutional, whether it's the Saudis or the Chinese or ETFs. I mean, we did see retail ETFs inflows, which are not just retail, they could be institutional as well. Have a wow, I didn't even see this on Friday. Yeah, on Thursday, 1.1 billion. On Friday, 1.02 billion. So part of this is retail, part of this is institutional. A lot of institutional investors just like buy BlackRock or Fidelity's Bitcoin fund, and that accounts for the volumes. But two multi-billion-dollar days back to back, if that can continue, first of all, it does show me that Robinhood and Coinbase's volumes should be better than what it was over the past couple of months. And B, it's just getting more price action on Bitcoin. The other reason it helps Robinhood is because Robinhood and Coinbase have a ton of Bitcoin under custody. So their AUC goes up and they get a yield off that AUC. But in order for that AUC to go up, the assets need to go up. That's why NVIDIA, Robinhood, Tesla, Palantir, SoFi, Google, all these stocks going up, Reddit, Amazon, Meta, Grab, it's good for Robinhood because at the end of the day, that means assets under custodies are going up. And that just looks really good for a brokerage that has a ton of assets under custody that are increasing. And right now they're at 255 billion. If we get anywhere near 300 billion by the end of the year, I think that would be very bullish. So that's what we got on HOOD. Kathy did buy SoFi. She bought how much? She bought 2 million shares back at like 17, if I'm not wrong, last week or a week before last week. So she exited, I think, at 10, and now she's back in. So yeah, Kathy also, that trade working out for Myth's Kathy Wood. So far right there at 2170. Okay, now speaking of Bitcoin, here's a chart of Bitcoin that I think is very important to reference right here. Every 4 years, you get a nasty bear market. So 2018, Bitcoin fell 73%. 2022, 4 years later, Bitcoin fell 64%. 2023 went up 155%. 2024 went up 120%. 2025 so far, it went up 27%. 2026, are we going to get that big bear? And I think that's a poll that we should do right here in the chat, because this is something that Roy, friend of the channel, Crossroads, he's been thinking about a lot as well. Is 2026 going to be a crypto winter? Which it would not be good for Robinhood, would not be good for Coinbase, would not be good for MicroStrategy. However, In 2022 and 2018 and 2014, you did not have BlackRock. You did not have Michael Saylor. You did not have the ETFs. You did not have like 10 different Bitcoin treasury companies like starting up every other week. Metaplanet already had a $7 billion valuation because of the Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet. You did not have the retail enthusiasm that was backed up by a much more legitimate understanding of the asset class. Like it's not as much as chasing as much as retail being orange pilled, which means they're just going to be more diamond handing on the asset class itself. Now, if it drops a lot, you never, that's when you get to really see how much the diamond hands can withhold a drawdown. But still, I do think things are materially different from every previous drawdown. Then again, if a drawdown does happen, I think we're gonna have to see how that plays out. So there you go. Bitcoin right there at 119. Ethereum, this is the other asset that we've been talking about a lot. Probably going to be doing a deep dive on this going into next week. Ethereum right there, 2980. Just below 3,000, has not been able to break through. All the Ethereum treasuries are getting a lot of love and momentum, some of them to the downside as well. BMNR is still up 10x from the lows, but it's down, a good 75% from where it popped up on at 160 when it was at the highs last week. I don't know how these ones play out, but I know that Ethereum is not making the move that Bitcoin has made, which is probably where the alpha is. Tesla, by the way, at 317. But ultimately, we're going to have to see if Ethereum can replicate some of the success of Bitcoin. Too many elites and entities are globally involved now. Yes, I agree. Because remember, dude, if Bitcoin has a 70% drawdown or something, it's not just retail that are, the people that invested every other cycle seeing their portfolios get hit. It is very sophisticated wealth managers that are allocating maybe even 0.5% of their AUM to like a Fidelity Bitcoin fund or a BlackRock Bitcoin fund. And they're going to be pretty damn upset if it takes that much of a drawdown. And they're probably not going to get more funds going into something that is that low. So it's just one of those things where I think asset managers have a vested interest to keep Bitcoin having momentum. And then not to mention stablecoins, which are also getting a ton of momentum. I don't think there's a direct sort of impact on Bitcoin, but there is a broader impact on the personality that the crypto ecosystem has when there's a massive use case like stablecoins. And that in and of itself could get people more interested about Bitcoin, which could create some excitement as well. We did have Vlad on the 20 VC podcast. This podcast is not out. This is a famous podcast from the United Kingdom around venture capital. Here is one of the clips of what he had to say on Robinhood's Future last week.
Crypto is interesting because right now crypto is sort of this like separate segment of the business. We kind of look at it and the outside world perceives it as a different asset. How big is your crypto business going to be relative to, say, your options business or equities business? It's very much like this is a separate asset that you're trading. But what we're starting to see already is crypto is going to be this layer that is behind everything, right? Everything is going to be powered by crypto to some degree. Give you an example. Right now we have Robinhood Gold has a interest piece where you can earn interest on your cash. Well, as we get stablecoin out, crypto will have that as well. You'll be able to earn interest on your stable coins, and that'll be a significant business. And you might consider that part of crypto, but that's that's something that's akin to a savings account. Prediction markets over time, you see overseas things like Polymarket. That's a prediction markets business, but it's also powered by crypto. And over time, you could see that eating the infrastructure.
This is what I think a lot of people are getting wrong about Robinhood. They are not just like embracing crypto for the trading of Bitcoin or Ethereum. They are embracing it as a technology. And the fact that he mentioned prediction markets, they might be going after Polymarket. The fact that he mentioned staking, he mentioned the actual technology of tokenization, which he's been doing a PR campaign to get people to not be that crazy about, the tokenized stocks and just understand it at a deeper level. But this is coming. This technology is coming. It's not going anywhere. And this is what the crypto bros should be excited about, because it's not just, Bitcoin. It's, hey, decentralized financial systems built on blockchains that have all this utility that people have been talking about. Robinhood is one of the first companies, along with Kraken, Coinbase, et cetera, that are really bringing it into the mainstream. And their margins enhance when they do that. So for investors, if they can get all those crypto volumes coming in, or get all those trading volumes coming in based on the underlying crypto technology versus like the NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange being the basis for how market makers pay Robinhood a rebate on their payment for order flow, That is very exciting for Hoodie. And that's why I think the street is giving it the multiple that it's getting right now. Now, speaking of Bitcoin, this was revealed over the weekend. Satoshi Nakamoto owns 1.096 million Bitcoin. I did not know this. I knew he owned Bitcoin. I didn't know he owned this much Bitcoin. That is worth $128 billion. And he is now in the top 10 richest people on the planet if you want to consider him alive, which if he is alive, I think it would take a lot of let's call it self-control to not. I mean, look, dude, I sold Nike. We bought Nike at $62.25. I sold it at $62.50. I was like, I'm out. I'm taking my $13. I'm leaving. And then Nike went on to go to 75. But if he's alive, to not touch 128 billion, which, by the way, if he did touch it, if this wallet ever sold their Bitcoin, I think it would ruin the entire thesis behind Bitcoin, right? Because it was always supposed to be some anonymous human being that, if you knew the identity of Satoshi, it would kind of take away from the aura and the personality and the ethos of a decentralized currency. And it makes sense that his kind of parting gift to humanity, given that he was so upset with what happened in 2008, was a currency that wouldn't be debased. And part of making sure it doesn't get debased is by not printing more of it, aka a set supply, but also not selling it. And like if you don't sell it, there's a better chance that the supply and demand shock and imbalances continue to be as aggressive as we see them today, going on Bitcoin trying to get to 120,000. So I don't know. I wonder who he is. I wonder if he's alive. I mean, some of you guys think he's alive. Some of you guys think he's not. I think he's probably not alive. I mean, if you are and you're sitting on 128 billion, bro. I mean, granted, if you figured out a way to create a currency that became a $2 trillion market cap like Bitcoin, and you're sitting on 128 billion, you probably figured out other ways to make money. So it's not like he needs the money. And quite frankly, if you were that person, like if you wrote that white paper, you probably genuinely believe in a new decentralized system of money, and you wouldn't want to sell probably, right? For what? To like buy a Lambo, right? Like that just doesn't seem like it matches the ethos of someone who would have created Bitcoin. But it is incredible to see $128 billion locked up in those keys. So there you go. That's what we got with Satoshi. Yes, we are all Satoshi. Triple V is not Satoshi. I would not think if he is Satoshi, he would have sold by now, bro. I mean, he holds, but I don't think he would have waited for 128 billion before selling it. Google right here, 179, SoFi 2162, Tessie making a little bit of a move, and then Hoodie 99 in the overnight markets. Why sell? Just borrow against it. That is also fair. Then again, I think he would have to reveal to a bank that he has hundreds of billions of dollars of Bitcoin that he would have to borrow against. So I don't know, dude. I think the mystery of Satoshi is more exciting and probably more in line with the fact that those Bitcoin have never been sold or never been touched. So that's what we got on Bitcoin. Thoughts on Cheesecake stock? I mean, I don't own it. I think it's a great company. I don't really know their financials so much. I know Jeremy, he's big on this stock, and the stock's done well this year. It does pay a dividend. I really couldn't tell you much about, the ins and outs of Cheesecake Factory outside of the restaurant, which I do love. But it's up 30% this year. I don't know if there's a ton of alpha after it's made this move already, but you would have to go a little bit more deeper into the Cheesecake thesis. Okay, cool. So that's what we got on Bitcoin. Tesla's making, again, a little bit of a run, but nothing too crazy right here. Here's another thing that I wanted to show everybody and bring up, because I thought this was also pretty damn interesting as we are getting into it. So this is actually the biggest story of the weekend that I think no one has really focused on. And it involves OpenAI and Google. Google ends up being the winner in this story, and we'll talk about why. Google right here down 0.5%. We got earnings in 2 weeks, folks, on Google. This is going to be a big one. 51% of you, by the way, say there's not going to be a crypto winter. So we do have some folks saying they don't think 2026 will be that bad for crypto. All right, so here's kind of the biggest story of the weekend for me. Let's start off. There's 5 steps to the story, and then we'll keep going from there. Some of you guys might know this story already, but you might not know about some of the updates that have happened over the weekend. And if you do, it is one of those things that is important to analyze for the health of OpenAI or Google. So OpenAI planned to acquire Windsurf back in April. This is an AI coding startup. I've introduced Cursor to a lot of you guys. I don't use it personally. Some of you guys might use it, but it's an AI coding assistant, and they have a $10 billion valuation. They're doing almost $500 million in annual recurring revenue. So these AI coding verticals, aka people that are kind of vibe coding with AI. So if you're coding, the AI is helping you code. They've become a massive market, like massive market. OpenAI wanted to buy them for $3 billion back in April of 2025. They had momentum, about 40 million in ARR, a unique AI native IDE, and they drew a lot of interest from a lot of tech giants. But OpenAI is the one that they went into a definitive agreement with. The deal got stalled over the past month because Microsoft, which owns 50% of OpenAI, which would have gained rights to Windsurf's intellectual property, which is the entire reason that OpenAI is paying $3 billion freaking dollars for this thing, right? Otherwise, they would have just done it on their own. So obviously, the IP is important. OpenAI didn't want that. And this OpenAI Microsoft partnership ended up showing some hiccups because, again, OpenAI got a lot of the backing from Microsoft. But now it's like, actually, we don't want you interfering in our $3 billion deals. But Microsoft's like, we own 50% of you. What do you mean you don't want us interfering in this? Like, it makes no sense. So no deal. On Friday, the deal fell apart. The exclusivity window expired on July 11th. And all of those employees that thought they were going to get a massive buyout, imagine planning your house, your car, some of them thought they would be retired for life, tens of millions of dollars they would be getting. There wasn't a big company. There weren't thousands of employees. They end up getting no deal. So what happens is Google swoops in on Friday. Sundar offers $2.4 billion to license Windsurf's technology, not buy it, because then they would have to go through all the regulatory stuff, just licensing it. And they steal the CEO and the co-founder, Varun Mohan and Douglas Chen. And they steal the top talent to go to DeepMind, which is Google's AI portion of the business. So basically, they got all the best talent to contribute building out their AI coding ambitions, and they stopped OpenAI from getting a major acquisition done. Now, why does this matter? Well, Zuckerberg is paying lots of money for talent. So obviously, for Google to get this type of talent in a vertical that is validated already, because you have other competitors like a Cursor that are already worth $10 billion. I mean, imagine if Google's AI coding division inside of Gemini could be worth $10 billion. Like, that could be a massive tailwind for them as a new line of revenue outside of just cloud and search. And they need to diversify from search. If Zucks is spending this much money on talent, Google obviously has to start spending a lot of money. And they were able to steal this talent away from freaking OpenAI. Just because Microsoft and Sam Altman have been having some, obviously, tensions that have not been the best thing for them. So it's quite incredible. Absolutely smart move on Google. And it kind of feels like OpenAI is having some issues. Now, I think ChatGPT is growing. It's one of the best models that's out there, even though Grok 4 is challenging that. And they're well on their way to get to 1 billion users. But dude, their best talent is leaving. They're having rifts with Microsoft. And now Google is stopping them from getting deals done. Well, not Google didn't stop them. Microsoft stopped them. But Google swoops in and takes away some of that talent. I mean, it's quite incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Shout out to Farzad in the chat. Amit, I miss you. Farzad, I miss you more. We got to get you on the channel, and I got to get my ass to Austin to get some barbecue with you. But Farzad's been covering this OpenAI saga as well for the past couple of years, and he's not the biggest fan of Sam Altman and what he's been doing. And I think, a lot of the employees are not a big fan of it as well, because when you have these many people start to leave for money, it's weird. It's very, very, very weird. And so, I don't know. We're going to see how this ends up playing out. But I do think that this is going to be a tailwind for Google. And I think that Google right here at 179.13, Google is going to get a decent amount of love from the street on Monday when this opens. I know it's down right here, but the fact that they were able to pull this off at the like when the markets were closed on Friday at around 7 to 8 p.m. So it wasn't like market breaking news when the market was open. I think if anything, even if the street doesn't give them a bump, this is definitely something that's going to be good for their earnings. And we just then have to see how it plays out. OpenAI has hemorrhaged way too much talent, and it shows in their latest couple of releases and misreleases. Yeah, the other thing we forgot to mention, Sam Altman did tweet over the weekend that he's delaying another model release. And, whatever you want to call the reason for why they're delaying it, at the end of the day, it is delayed. He says, we need time to run additional safety tests and review high-risk areas. We're not yet sure how long it will take us. While we trust the community will build great things with this model, once weights are out, they can't be pulled back. This is new for us, and we want to get it right. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. We are working super hard. This comes after Grok 4 came out. And, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, Elon's moving, and maybe OpenAI is not moving as much. Now, Sam Altman did respond to this 2 weeks ago when he was confronted about Microsoft. And here is exactly what he said.
Truly great, but hardware is really hard and it takes a while. And to the time. So we're like really going to take.
And its CEO, Satya Nadella, as, quote, the best bromance in tech. The bromance has been feeling a little wobbly recently. OpenAI needs Microsoft's blessing for this for-profit conversion, and Microsoft is reportedly peeved at you about a bunch of things, including the terms of a planned acquisition. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that things had gotten so tense that OpenAI executives were considering reporting Microsoft to the government for anti-competitive behavior.
Do you believe that? When you read those things and say, like, do you think...
Are you saying it's not
you know what
true?
I always think when I read that? I hope I get to ask Sam Altman about it.
So what is going on, and are you caught in a bad bromance?
I had a super nice call with Satya yesterday about many topics, including our hopefully very long and productive future working together. And obviously, in any deep partnership, there are points of tension, and we've certainly had those. But on the whole, it's been like really wonderfully good for both companies. We're both ambitious companies, so we do find some flashpoints. But I would expect that it is something that we find like deep value in for both sides for a very long time to come. And in a world where
are you guys buying this? Are you guys buying it? Like, does what he's saying, does it make sense to you? Or do you think this partnership really isn't going that well?
I do read these articles sometimes, like OpenAI, Microsoft about to collapse, and this, that, and then like my calls are like, how do we figure out what the next decade together looks like? And it doesn't. Yeah, again, not to pretend like there's no tension, there is, but there's like so much good stuff there. And I think there's like such a long.
There was so much tension that a $3 billion acquisition was called off on Friday. I mean, to kind of downplay it and say, well, there's some tension, but we have a good relationship. Like, dude, you guys were going to buy out an entire company for $3 billion, and that went to zero in terms of the offer because you didn't want Microsoft, the company that owns 50% of you, to have access to their IP. Obviously, I think he feels Microsoft is a huge AI competitor, and that tension is now turning into real problems for how OpenAI is going to navigate the relationship they have with their investors and also trying to bring a product into the market.
Horizon.
That's what we in the business call a non-denial denial.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
Let's move on into some policy stuff.
I don't know, dude. It's weird. It is freaking weird. I don't get it. And it's one of those things that makes it like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize, hey, maybe the Microsoft OpenAI thing is not working out as well. Now, as I say that, OpenAI still has all the users. ChatGPT still has all the, when you ask someone about AI, they don't say Grok, they don't say Gemini, they say ChatGPT. However, if Grok, and I think the All-In podcast talked about this over the weekend, so we can play this clip as well. If Grok just builds the better model, I mean, like at some point, people are going to want quality, even if there's a massive first mover advantage. And first mover advantage is hard to beat. I mean, Google has that first mover advantage, but the reason people are using Perplexity or ChatGPT is because of the fact that it's just better. And ultimately, if it's a better product, you're probably going to see some momentum in that product start to evolve and get people to switch. I switched from ChatGPT to Grok because I thought it was better. But, the entire world is not doing that. Farzad says they are trying to operate as a for-profit, as a non-profit, and that's why they can't get this stuff over the line. Yeah, I mean, literally one of their, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Remember SoftBank that was going to put in $40 billion? Yeah, that's delayed, folks. That $40 billion is not guaranteed anymore. On Friday, it was reported that $40 billion is now delayed for two reasons. Number one, this windsurf stuff is getting some hiccups in the investors' thesis that they had before deploying this capital. Number two is the regulatory issues with becoming a for-profit and operating as like a parent company that's kind of a nonprofit legally, but not realistically. So part of what's stalling them getting $40 billion, by the way, they're going to use that $40 billion, 3 of the $40 billion to buy windsurf. That's not on the table anymore. Now, I think Masa, who's the head of the SoftBank Vision Fund that's going to make this investment, will still invest. I don't think he's going to completely pull out. But, you have these hiccups. And regular companies don't have these hiccups because they didn't start off as nonprofits. Here's what Olin said over the weekend on how Grok can ultimately catch up to ChatGPT in terms of usage.
Question, Keith, Travis, Jason. If you guys were running Grok 4,
to be so much fun.
how do you judo flip OpenAI? Because they are marching steadfastly towards 1 billion Mao, then 1 billion DAO. It's a juggernaut. So how do you use the better product in a moment to judo flip the less better product?
Look, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? So you do the Elon way. So you get a bunch of missionary, like full-on missionary engineers that work twice as hard, and you have a culture that,
which means they don't go to Meta because Zucks offers them money. And to be fair, I have not heard a single person from XAI go to Meta. I don't know if you guys have, but I've seen DeepMind engineers leave, and I've seen OpenAI engineers leave. I have not seen XAI engineers leave. Feels like, Elon's building a more mission-driven culture around AI.
is ultra fierce truth seeking, and you don't get caught up in politics, bureaucracy, BS, and you go for it. And I think that's where and then you go, wow, scientific breakthrough, scientific method. Like, you start winning on truth, and I believe that will start to give the product awesomeness of OpenAI a run for its money.
Mm-hmm.
But like the product of OpenAI, the product department, those guys are crushing. They're really good. They're not only ahead of the game, but they feel like they're just leading in a lot of different ways. But if you are better at truth, you'll eventually have an AI product manager.
Yeah, and on a tactical basis too, people forget how good Elon is at factories and physical real world things. What he did standing up Colossus made, like, Jensen Huang was like, how is this possible that you did this, right? So pressing that, his ability to build factories, and he said many times, like, the factory is the product of Tesla. It's not the cars that come out of the factory or the batteries, it's the factory itself. So if he can keep solving the energy problem with solar on one side and batteries, and standing up, Colossus 2, 3, 4, 5, he's going to have a massive advantage there on top of Travis, the missionary individuals, which, by the way, was what he backed before Sam Altman corrupted the original missionary basis of OpenAI, made it closed AI in a, this is nothing derogatory towards him, but he did hoodwink and stab Elon in the back. And it's nothing personal. I mean, he just screwed him over. And
would you say he bamboozled him?
He bamboozled him, screwed him, hoodwinked him, pick your term here. But he did him dirty. The original mission was to be missionary and open source all this content. That's the other piece I think is a wild card. And then I'm interested in Keith's position. But open sourcing some of this could have profound ramifications. I think open sourcing the self-driving data could have a really profound impact. Elon wanted to do something really disruptive, like he open sourced his patents for charging. If he open sourced the data set and self-driving, does anybody have the ability to produce robo-taxis at the scale he can do it? I don't think so.
Well,
so
if Travis's hypothesis is true, then everybody will.
Well,
everybody will what? Sorry, everybody will what, Shimon?
If you have access to the money that buys the compute, everyone could solve that problem.
So it's a hardware piece I'm talking about.
He said if you publish all the FSD data, could somebody build an autonomous vehicle?
Well, yes, but could somebody produce 100 million robo-taxis from a factory with batteries in them?
Okay, that's a different question.
That's the thing I'm saying.
And that's the hard part, right? So, I mean, and going back to Grok, could someone build a culture like Elon has so far with XAI that keeps people working twice as hard to get out these models? They released Grok 4, they're ahead of schedule versus GPT, and not leave when Zucks is offering you a ton of money. Yeah, it's impossible to poach talent from that formula. It very is. Musk culture is working on the most important and difficult technical problems on the planet with a generational leader at the helm and get compensated accordingly when the company's successful. Well, it's also very similar to Palantir, right? Like Palantir's entire thesis to customer clients, customer contracts is you pay us when you see the value is far exceeding what you're paying us. And that's when we deserve to get paid, which is why Palantir gets 20, 30, $50 million contracts, because the company knows after a 6-month pilot that it's worth paying that much money. And Elon and Karp, they're the types of product-focused leaders that really don't give a shit about money. They care about winning, and they know money will be the byproduct of winning. And I think genuinely, if you've ever thought of what the definition of a winner is, I think the definition of a winner is someone who knows they need to do what it takes to win because they know the impact of winning will be the byproduct of doing whatever it takes to win. AKA, you do it the right way. You get the job done. And that can be applicable in a variety of different niches in life. But when in business, it's you deliver the best product or service unconditionally, and then you win. Because when you have the best product and service, you tend to win, and the money tends to flow into your direction. And that's kind of been Elon's entire mission philosophy for most of his companies. So I think Grok's in a pretty good situation. XAI, the parent company of Grok, I think they're going to get all the money they need. And if Tesla investors and SpaceX investors are able to get exposure to it, I think that would be very, very exciting. But, we got to see if that ends up happening from the shareholder meeting that's going to happen in November, when Elon said today it'll be put up to a vote. And if it is, I think most shareholders will vote, because again, $40 billion in cash. Like, what else are you doing with it? I mean, look, investing at XAI in $200 billion is not like it was back at $20 billion. But if you think XAI if you think OpenAI is going to be worth $1 trillion, XAI is probably going to be up there in the corresponding years. And that's a 5x for Tesla investors if they get to invest at these levels. Yeah, and Tesla needs cash for bot, compute, and robotaxi, exactly. Which would not be the worst thing in the world. Yes, XAI CapEx is going to be nutty, which is also going to be really good for none other than NVIDIA, dude. I mean, she's not slowing down. She's going to have so much demand. I mean, this is GPT-4, Grok 4. When we get to Grok 10, GPT-10, there's going to be so much demand for all the levels of compute that is needed, which means all the derivative plays of data centers, which some of them took a hit last week because Amazon said they were building some of their own stuff. But nonetheless, there's going to be so much demand to go around for this pie. And, XAI is going to be one of the four names, but behind Gemini, Meta, and OpenAI, that are contributing to that CapEx. Futures right here still down about 0.5%. VIX is up 1.4. Most of the future is basically flat on the day. And again, that's another reason why I think Tesla's running. But I think Tesla's running simply because no matter what Elon says about the America Party or Epstein or Trump or whatever, the market's just like, wait a second. This guy's executing like a madman when it comes to Grok. We know Grok's going to be inextricably linked towards Tesla. We know XAI is going to have multiple synergies with Tesla. We know that if Elon's able to somehow find a way to get a new model out every 5 months, then his execution on Tesla, even if EV sales are down, is not going to be lacking when it comes to actual AI execution, because there's auto execution and then AI execution. AI execution to me is FSD and eventually Optimus. And if they can get AI execution to be out there, aka robotaxis, I mean, the street's going to pay a premium. It's just very simple. Which is why I think 280 to 330, that's my range. That's my range to buy Tesla. It's very simple. And could it go below or above that? Sure, but I do think that is the range where it should stay, barring any like massive news. What could be worse than like having beef with the president and being so explicit? By the way, Elon doubled down over the weekend. Saying that Trump needs to release more of the Epstein stuff. So it's not even like Elon's sugarcoating it anymore. He's leaning into the hate, but I think the market's just like, you know what? We don't care. Let him say whatever the hell he wants to say. At the end of the day, we know where the story is going. By the way, Elon did post this as well. He quote tweeted someone who showed off a game they made with Grok. And he said, "We are creating a multi-agent AI software company at XAI where Grok spawns hundreds of specialized coding and image video generation, understanding agents all working together, and then emulates humans interacting with the software and virtual machines until the result is excellent." So Elon also saying, hey, we're going to be getting into gaming. We're going to be getting into all these different agentic workflows. Like, we are not slowing down with Grok. By the way, Grok's consumer business is not even that important. It matters because, you need mind share in the age of AI with consumers. But ultimately, AIP from Palantir and a variety of other different pieces of software are going to be connecting inside of these large enterprises and government organizations to an LLM. A lot of OpenAI's money comes from API calls. And those API calls ultimately come from enterprises that are consistently using those LLMs every day in their workflows. If they switch over to Grok, which right now I think the gold standard in the enterprise is Gemini 2.5, but if they switch over to Grok, and we already know that Palantir and XAI have a partnership, that could be very exciting for the enterprise revenues that XAI will be able to achieve. Yeah, Elon unfollowed Pam Bondi. I mean, dude, he's completely done with this administration at this point. So, yeah. But again, he voiced his frustrations over the weekend, and the stock's up right now. Why? Because the market doesn't care. The market cares about the age of AI, which is going to be the biggest opportunity in our lifetimes. And Tesla is one of the leaders in that lifetime opportunity, and it's going to get a premium. So that's what we got in the context of Tesla. Tesla right there at 317, NVIDIA 165.95, Palantir 143, and then Robin at 99. Folks, we started off red, and although futures are still red on the indices, a lot of stocks are green. A lot of stocks are green, which is nice to see. Which is very nice to see. I think those were kind of the main headlines. We talked about Windsurf, OpenAI, Google, Tesla, Bitcoin. Hopefully Bitcoin cracks 120 this week. That would be a big, big milestone for Bitcoin. We talked about the EU tariffs and Canada tariffs. Market is probably down based on those tariffs, but we'll see tomorrow if the market actually cares that much about it. Outside of that, those are kind of the main deals or main stories and headlines going into the third trading week. This thing I thought was also interesting as well. The median U.S. condo sale price declined 2.2% in May. It is the second largest decrease since at least 2012. The average U.S. condo now costs $354,000. A lot of this is a result of the lack of rate cuts, not opening up the housing market. And, when that happens, hopefully we'll get some of these condo prices to start going higher along with overall home prices. You can invest in XAI on Hive. Again, I mentioned this platform many times. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's just if you're an accredited investor, you log in to hive.com, you sign up, and you should be able to buy most of the stocks that are out there. XAI, yeah, it's there. So right now, XAI shares are worth $51. I don't know if that means 180 billion market cap, $140 billion market cap. You would have to log in and see. You can see there's 86 live orders. It's literally like a bidding auction marketplace. So if you really do want to buy that stock, there are private places to get there. You probably will be paying a premium, but nonetheless, if you want to get in early, then those are the ways to get there. Is this the worst bears have? I mean, dude, that's a question, right? Is this the worst that bears have? And I don't want to be disrespectful to the bear case at all, because the bear case can come out of nowhere and anyone can get hit with it. And I do think August, September will be a little weaker, right? Like, it's just inevitable. But the labor market's not really the issue. Inflation maybe on Tuesday is a little bit sticky, but that's not really the issue. Tariffs, I guess, are the issue unless August 1st we get a delay. And the lack of deals, I guess the bears can point to. But take the S&P back down to 5,500 or even 6,000 from here. It's possible. It's just like, would that actually play out? Would that actually play out? Here's the form for the Miami meetup. I see people asking about it in the chat. So I had another meeting with the hotel on Friday. I still need confirmation from them. So most likely it'll be 23rd, 24th. I'm still waiting for official confirmation from that hotel. So again, I believe it's like 95% confirmed, but you never know. Something could happen. And I didn't have the actual official, like, all right, you are booked. So once I get details on that, you will get an email. So look, if you want to know about it, then sign up. No matter what, it's going to be the 23rd, 24th, that weekend. I can guarantee that. I don't know if it'll be on the 23rd, if it'll be on the 24th. Right now, leaning towards the 24th if we go with this place, but we're going to see. But that is the weekend of the meetup. So if you sign up, you will get an email, hopefully in like 2 days, with the actual location. But I need like official confirmation. So once I get that, I will let people know. And if we don't end up getting that place, there's a lot of other places on the menu that we can end up achieving. But yeah, make sure to sign up on that. And that's where you'll get all the information. It's going to be the best weekend ever. It should be fun. It should be fun. It should be a good time. What do you do at the meetups? Drinking and talking. That's it. So it'll be an open bar. I mean, you still have to pay for drinks, but it'll be a bar, and everyone talks. Literally, everyone just like mingles. That's it. Everyone talks, and so it's a fun time, dude. Like it's very natural. Like all of us are just looking for other people to talk to about investing, and we don't have those communities, and so. The beautiful thing about the meetups is like in that moment, like everyone wants to talk about investing, and you'll have little circles talking about different things, and you end up getting to network with people, and people have become really good friends from these events. So it should be fun. Yeah, June's been to one of them. Yeah, she was in California. A couple of you guys have been to multiple ones, but June will be in the Miami one. Zocold was there at the Miami one. It's usually a good time. There is no cocaine use at these meetups. I don't think we've had a meetup with I mean, I'm on blow every day. That's how I have this energy. So I guess like I should exclude myself from that. But for you guys, I don't know. But I haven't seen any use of narcotics at these meetups. But it's been fun. It's been fun. Dude, Japan would be fun. So next year, Europe is my my goal. Singapore and Europe is my goal next year. I don't know if we'll be able to do Japan, but hopefully I really want to do London. I want to do freaking Germany. I want to do Italy. I got Arnie there, so I know that'll be fun. London's a big one that I know a lot of you guys are in there. France would be cool, and then Singapore. So I think if we do London or if we do Europe, it's just a question of just like, how do we plan it out for all those months and all those locations? But a lot of parts of Europe are together, so I feel like we could do multiple at the same time. Just got to figure out how to do it. I want to come to Japan. I want to go to Tokyo. Japan is absolutely amazing, and the culture is phenomenal. And I'm a big sushi guy. I love sushi, so we're gonna definitely try to get Japan in there eventually. George says, I was in the Toronto meetup, enjoyed meeting a bit. Yeah, George, thank you for being there. It's fun, dude. It's fun. And usually, the most we had in a meetup was 170 people. So I am running around trying to make sure that I say hi to every single person. And usually the meetups are like 5 to 6 hours. So I get a shot to literally say hi to every single person. I don't think there's been a meetup where I haven't been able to shake your hand and just say hello. And Boston, we had, I think, like 70 people. So Boston was also pretty good. It's fun. It's a fun time. And Miami should continue to be fun. All right. So is that it? I think those are most of the headlines. Again, nothing too crazy. Markets are holding up, man. It's been a good year so far. We're getting into the last 6 months of the year, but it's been a good freaking year, dude. Everyone's portfolios are up. Year to dates are looking pretty good. I'm at about 77.74% year to date. You guys can put your year to dates in the chat, but we did it on Friday, and everyone's at freaking minimum 30% is what I saw. Unless you're super heavy Tesla, you're a little lower. But from what I've seen, everyone's above that 30, 40%, if not get very close to it at like 25%. So it's one of those things where now I just want to hold on to this, right? It's been a good year. Just want to hold on to it, not lose it. And we need earnings growth. We need Q2 earnings growth, and it's been pretty damn good so far. It's only been 2 companies, Levi's and Delta. And I think the financials this week are going to crush. There's no reason for them to not crush. By the way, these financials, even if they're not brokerages, they manage so much money that the volatility of the markets, which, I mean, what was more volatile than April, May in Q2? That is massive for the wealth management portions of a Bank of America, a Citi, a JP Morgan, a Goldman Sachs, etc. So just the volatility alone that should have created more inflows and then more deploying of capital across all the wealth management divisions of these banks, that should be massive for them. I mean, I don't see any world where the banks disappoint this week. Not at all. And they increased their dividends. They're doing buybacks. Like, the financials will do their thing. We need Netflix to do its thing. Netflix at all-time high, so I don't want to be super aggressive here, but I think they're going to do fine. But also, I mean, they're at all-time highs, right? So they've got to really give a good quarter. And then we have tech next week. And if that can do well, then I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. Yeah, a lot of people. 30%, 40%, 50%, 160, 35, 69, 24, 96, 40, 53, 50, 80. It's been a strong year so far. It's been a strong year. Grab is getting momentum again on FinTwit. Yes, I will say that. Just like objectively speaking, if you go on Twitter and you type in Grab, there's a lot of content every day. I'm not even saying that because I have a big position. I'm just like being super objective about it. If you go on Twitter and type in Grab, you're going to see a lot more people hopping on this train. So now that doesn't mean the stock has to move. It just means that there is a healthy retail community that is being formed, and people are putting out some really good, like people are putting out stuff that I never even thought about before when it comes to it, like going deep into their margins and their numbers. And it's not going to give you a big bear AI goes from 4 to 7, then back down to 5 in like 3 weeks type of return where you can play the volatility. But I think in a world where everything's running, Grab at 50% cash is relatively de-risked to me. And I think more retail is getting excited for the story. 103%, 55%. We got Sachin in the chat. Grab. Sachin's on this train. He's pretty excited about this one as well. Eli's up 33%. Wool's up 52%. DAC from 5,000 to 45,000 since October 2023. I mean, that's incredible, dude. It's 9xing your portfolio in 2 years. Like, it's just amazing. It's just absolutely freaking amazing. And again, I don't think it's a meme stock route. I just like, yes, there's some froth in the market, sure, but these companies are putting up growth, bro. Like, it's really hard to convince me this is a meme stock market. Are there some things that are frothy? Yeah, but like this is not like Meta at $1 trillion in 2021 when it doesn't deserve $1 trillion valuation. One could argue Meta is cheap at 740. Now, if Zucks keeps paying this billions of dollars for talent, who knows? But that could be part of the reason why you buy, because Meta is not stopping when it comes to AI spend. And that billions of dollars, that's going to go back into the economy in a variety of different ways in other AI companies. And it just continues to be one of the biggest tailwinds that humanity has ever seen for the markets, which is AI. And we're starting to really see the growth from that in the margins and in the productivity and in the user adoption. I mean, Elon's not coming out with Grok V4 unless Grok V3 is getting so much usage that they realize, hey, it's worth building the next version of this because people want it to be better and faster and stronger to get their momentum. My average cost on Grab is $450. $450 is my average on Grab. The Qs year to date are up 8.62. Qs year to date are up 8.62. S&P is up 6.7. So if you're above 6.7, you're beating the S&P. If you're above 8.6 or 8.2, you are beating the Qs. Google's about to launch. I mean, dude, it feels like this. If this one doesn't get to 200 in like the next 3 months, I don't know how the market is going to be thinking of Google, but I feel like it's coming. I don't know when, but I feel like it's coming. And if it does, it would be very exciting. But I know a lot of you guys are loaded up on Google. I have some Google. I might end up buying more before earnings just for the hell of it. They're not going to have the big EPS boost this quarter, which is the only thing that's worrying me. So they're going to need to have really good, just like pure AI growth. Like this is the quarter to do it. And, hopefully they can do it. From 50,000 to 267 from August of 2023. It's my screw around count. I love it. Incredible. So more than 4x on that account. Absolutely freaking incredible. Yeah, so Amazon, I mean, look, we don't have the official Prime Day numbers yet. I ordered a lot of crap off Amazon. I'm sure a lot of you guys did as well. I got my AirPods. Dude, the AirPod Maxes from Apple, they are incredible, bro. Like they're like this newest version. They are absolutely incredible. I mean, they just like, not the big ones you put over your ears, but the AirPod Pro, whatever it's called. I mean, I think it might become my daily headphone user, and I got it for 40% off. So there were some great deals on Prime. I'm curious to see if they can break 25 billion. They got to break 25 billion in sales to keep this going. So we're going to see. But Amazon as well, one of those companies where we believe AWS compute is not, or AWS demand is not going down, and that means that compute and AI workloads are a tailwind, and that is not slowing down anytime soon. All right, folks, I believe that is it. We are done for the Sunday futures. We will be back tomorrow. NVIDIA right here, 166, Tessie 317, Palantir 143, Robin at 99.20, SoFi 2160, Google right here at 179, Grab 499, Reddit 144, Amazon 223, Palantir 143.10, and the S&P 500 down about 0.42%. Tomorrow, we are going to see how the market reacts to some of the tariffs that were announced over the weekend, and then CPI on Tuesday. It's going to be very, 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 very important if we get a good CPI along with a good earnings, which Tuesday will start financials. And if we can hopefully get some type of a trade deal, maybe this week or next week, then we'll get to end out July in the right way and keep some of this momentum going. So there you go. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Bitcoin as well, 119. Hopefully we can break through 120 this week. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I will see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.